Tom's and Euclid.
Tom's at Euclid, he just texted me
Oh, okay.
and said we should just start going.
Okay.
Okay.
We're live.
All right, Akron? Hello? Akron?
I have to unmute the mic.
Hello.
Hi, this is
Hi.
Francis at Parma, and Euclid is still working on getting online. So I'm going to begin, going to facilitate the first 45 minutes of this. No, we don't have a Peer Deck code yet. So we're going to have about 45 minutes of today. We'll be sharing, and I hope I use that as a verb. We're going to share products and answer some questions, and then in the last 35 minutes, our outside evaluators want to do a focus group, and there will be one focus group here, another focus group in Akron, and that will be the end of penultimate for this iteration and everything. So, all right. So why don't we begin with people sharing? We have about 3 minutes, and I'll try to time you, and then we'll go around everybody. There are 4 people here.
Can you tell us how we're sharing like a lesson or what we learned?
What I want you to share is any class product that you would like everybody to see that communicates the learning you're doing in the penultimate sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out loud. Out loud. So I'm going to be quiet, and some person can talk for 3 minutes. What we have arranged here is Say it again. Karina here, if you want something broadcast to everybody, she'll go into your wiki site and project it up on the screen. Okay. So, again, 3 minutes to present some product that I hope you present a product that you're very proud about.
Sure.
And then, during your presentation, we would like you to talk about your learning and your doing in this class. If you go to the penultimate website, penultimateproject.weebly, you'll see the 2 parts of what we're going to do today. Okay. So we have 4 people here. I think we have 3 people at Akron, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Nancy has a question before we start.
You mean, when you talk about product, you mean one of these things we created, like our poem or our narrative or something?
Exactly, those are products that
I need more than 3
So we're
minutes.
supposed to pick out one?
if you want to do more than one, you may, but I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Honestly.
Oh.
And then once everybody goes through, if we still have time left, then we can go around a second round, okay?
Okay, because we're sharing for 45 minutes, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't quite.
And that's 7 people.
But that's through with all the both locations.
Oh, so this
That's
is just
both
us
locations.
privately.
Yes, this is both locations.
Okay, so we're sharing with everyone.
You're sharing with everybody.
Okay.
And Euclid, when they come online, they'll probably have 1 or 2 people who will also share.
But then we'll do the whole sharing thing again later.
Then we can go through if people want to do a second round.
Okay, but we only have 3 minutes per person.
Yeah.
Yes. But 3 times 9 is 27, so we might be able to get the 2 rounds going. But I'd rather make sure everybody have a chance then.
Right.
somebody not have a child. So I'll be releasing you, but I'll stick face. It's just kicking me out. My attention span is pretty limited, so I'll try to focus for 3 minutes. All right, who would like to go first?
They're gonna have things on our wiki up too.
Yes.
People to see.
So just tell her what you would like to have projected.
Oh. Okay. And do I stand up?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, you can
so
stand in
everybody
front of
can
the
see.
camera.
Oh, okay. So stand here and talk.
Yeah.
This is true. But I like it.
Okay. Can you spell your last name?
I'm COLE. Oh, I'm Jamie C. Right. Yeah, I'm right there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Jamie Cole, and I decided to research sugar as being a toxin. And I started off with a narrative. I wrote a narrative about this young lady named Honey Pie. Actually, her name is Sweetie Honey Pie. And basically, she's really kind at times, and then she's really not so nice. Okay, so I was trying to draw the parallel to sugar seeming to be such a great substance on the outside, but it has a lot of negative effects on your body. Okay, so I did research. I used this book called Sugar Blues by William Duffy, and an article called Is Sugar Toxin, featured in New York Times. I forget the author though. And basically, from my research, I couldn't find any positive articles as far as refined sugar. Let me back up. I should have said refined sugar, not natural or raw cane sugar being toxic. So, I mean, I don't know if I had time to go into like the details, but basically, it talks about sugar being a toxin because of the fact that all of the actual nutrients that can aid your body, or the things that your body can use, is not in refined sugar. So therefore, it's just sitting. It just sits in the body, and it kind of leaches off of the nutrients that are currently there. That's why oftentimes in diabetics you see teeth, the loss of teeth, eyesight, because the refined sugar is there, kind of leaching off of the nutrients that aid those parts of the body. Okay, and then for my argumentative essay, there was a couple of things I could have argued, but I decided to argue that refined sugar should have health warning labels instead of, banning it completely. Just have like a warning label. And so this process really helped me in my class because I saw how I could take a topic and use it to create a narrative, and then a research project, or an informative essay, I should say, and then an argument piece. And so my kids at school, I'm an 8th grade English teacher, I'm working with the narrative of Frederick Douglass, and they're actually writing an argument on determining if determination, literacy, or ingenuity was the characteristic that helped Frederick Douglass to attain his freedom. So they have to gather evidence throughout the piece and argue which point. So how this has helped is that I've created an assignment for next year's students where they're going to also, in addition to writing that argument piece, they're going to write a narrative, and I'm just going to read right from my paper. It says, write a narrative in which your main character or character changes his or her life for the better using determination, literacy, or ingenuity. Okay, and then they're going to also write an informational essay in which you describe how you are going to use determination, literacy, or ingenuity to reach your goals or dreams. In addition to doing the argumentative piece, where they have to decide if Douglass used determination, ingenuity, or literacy the most. So I hope that makes sense, but that that's how it helped me. So basically, what I did with Sugar, I'm having my kids do that with Frederick Douglass's narrative.
Okay, that's about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Any questions at this point?
Hey, Jamie.
Yes.
Hey, really, really neat job. A question for you. In traditional kind of inner workings of your classroom, do you normally gang the different types of writing together and do one topic and let's explore different forms of writing on it, or do you typically do, okay, well, we're gonna do one unit and we'll have narrative on that, and then we'll do a separate topic and we'll do persuasive on that?
Yes, I normally do it the second way. So we would, they wrote a narrative earlier on in the school year that had nothing to do with their argument that they're writing now.
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
So this is a little bit different for you to be kind of saying, okay, let's take one topic and let's look on these from different perspectives on that one topic.
Right. And it'll allow me to also model, I think I'll be able to model it a little better as well. Because I've decided I think I'm going to write with them. And so they'll see how I take a topic and, keep basically, I guess, growing the topic.
Well, congratulations, because, with the Frederick Douglass piece, that is pure sugar.
Yeah. That's what?
It's pure sugar. Frederick Douglass, pure sugar.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to Jamie? Immediate ones. Okay, someone from Akron, would you like to share with us a product and some of your learning and doing?
Okay. My name is Melanie Wilkins. I teach 8th grade language arts in Cuyahoga Falls. I guess I'll talk a little bit about what I did in general. I did research on monarch butterflies. At the beginning of the class, when I was trying to nail it down, I decided to pick something that was interesting to me and that I could use in a practical way. I do a lot of gardening, and I wanted to do some research on how I can help butterflies in my garden this summer. So that's what led me to that. And through doing a lot of research over that, I learned a lot, and I know what I'm going to plant this summer, and I enjoyed studying about it. One of the most interesting pieces I think I wrote, probably I got into it more in the persuasive essay and the informational text, which I find odd because normally when I think of myself as a writer, I think I don't normally like to write like that, but both of those pieces I enjoyed writing more. The narrative, I got way off track. But they were, what's interesting about it is that for the monarchs, if we look at them, they are kind of like the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. If we see that their numbers are dwindling, if we look at that on a big picture scale, they might be the first most delicate species to be affected by what we're doing to the planet. So if we don't take some steps to correct what we're doing to them, it's going to ultimately end up affecting us. I think that's the big takeaway I took from that. As I was sitting around today and I was typing up my class takeaway piece, I was thinking about this and what I will take away from the class. And I think it's the whole idea of place-based learning and tailoring what you do in class to fit the needs of your students. And I know that that's good teaching practice, but I typed this in my takeaway piece today. I sometimes get away from that. I know that I should try to tailor lessons to fit the needs of my students, but sometimes I get so wrapped up in what I have to do that I forget to do that. And it's too bad because I always tell them at the beginning of the year that one of the reasons I love to teach language arts is because there are a million different ways to do any one thing. There's no set way to do it. But then when it comes down to it, sometimes I get so busy that I don't actually always do that. So I really want to try to make sure that I make more of an effort to do that in my classroom. And I think over everything that we've done throughout this, that's what I will take away from this, is really tailoring my lessons more to fit the needs of my students and where they are in the world. That's it.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Melanie?
Hey, I'm gonna keep hogging the question opportunities here. Hey, Melanie?
Yes.
So Cuyahoga Falls, for people who don't know, is going with kind of a den-based approach, kind of a stacked cluster of, different curricular tracks that students can sign up for. And you guys are talking a lot about this idea of writing across the curriculum. Does this course, do you think, fit with the future of where your district is going? Why or why not?
It really does, because we are talking about writing across the curriculum and writing in many different ways, and that writing is not just writing in language arts. And with our DEN program, that's really interest-based learning, which I think is a lot what we've talked about here as well. Again, all the students in our district, they have to learn the core subjects, but we have these 4 different DENs, so we can attack each of the core subjects based on their interests, whether they are creative, arts, media, and design is one DEN, whether they like science, we've got, our engineering and entrepreneurship and our health and wellness. So it really is that whole idea of place and where students see themselves and see themselves as learners. So I think this is perfect for what we are trying to do in the falls. And on a side note, I'm excited about what we're doing in the falls. I think that it's really interesting what we're doing.
Thank you.
Someone from Euclid, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'll go get some all set up.
You might want to get closer to that camera so they can see you.
Okay.
Or,
Oh, I can move. That's good. I'll need to look at that, I guess. Sorry, the parameters are interesting in our room at the moment. Okay, can you guys see me all right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, my name is Kristen Zajac. If you wanted to pull up my stuff, that's fine. For the penultimate session, I basically investigated travel. While I was in undergraduate, I had the opportunity to participate in Semester at Sea. So they converted a cruise ship, and we sailed to a bunch of different countries. And so we got to have that sort of like cultural experience and also the sort of experiential learning. So I kind of ran with that. Let's see. For my informational one, I talked about why travel is important to students, and a lot of the information basically talks about how like travel builds confidence because you're put in uncomfortable situations and you have to kind of you're really in the middle of everything. You're growing and learning, and it's all happening to you. So of course you're going to observe that, and that traveling applies to like different learning styles. So like if you're a visual learner, if you need to be like hands-on with things, then obviously you're going to be experiencing all sorts of things. So you'll have the opportunity to embrace life in all those sorts of ways. Oh, and I forget what my third point is, but you get the idea. So basically, yay travel. For my narrative piece, I focused on one of the countries that I visited that like meant the most to me, and so I wrote about Egypt. I liked visiting there because this was before kind of like big life stuff happened. So I don't know that I'll ever get to go back there, but it was super cool and totally different than America. So I talked about that in my poem, which just scrolled by, and also my narrative example. So I basically took one of the experiences that I had when I was traveling and turned it into a story. And then, that's my argumentative piece, scrolling by there. So that is talking about, like, I'm trying to convince students, like, here's why you should travel, because these are all the benefits, and that you should do it now as opposed to later in life because you might not get to it. So in general, as far as like a subject to talk about during this course, I think that it's really good because I kind of inadvertently picked like a form of experiential learning as my subject. So that was cool to kind of watch that be fleshed out throughout the program. And in terms of the way that this sort of relates to like what I do in the workplace, so I work in a library, I'm not a teacher, and so that makes things a little bit different for me in terms of programming because Like we don't have like a set of children that we see necessarily every time. We don't necessarily know ahead of time who's coming to our programs even. So it makes it a little bit trickier trying to gear a program to your specific community because like you don't know who's going to be there. But what I will say is that I have a different approach to thinking about the materials that we encounter on a daily basis. So if we get a really cool book in there and like a teacher needs some resources, I can say like, look at this really cool picture. You can use this to like start a conversation, or like depending on what the topic is, you know, this sentence in this book is fantastic. Like here's a prompt for you, or whatever. So in terms of kind of creating that relationship between teachers and librarians, I think that I have a new way of looking at the resources at our disposal, and also in terms of like coming up with programs for myself. Like I have a new way of expanding on like what subjects can be and the directions you can go with them. So that's how I think I will apply penultimate in the workplace. But that's me.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
So Kristen has a really good idea. Will you just tell everybody about Story Pirates?
Yes.
You have to tell people about it.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about Story Pirates. You might be able to tell. So the Story Pirates, it's an organization based out of New York City, and basically what they do is they are a theater troupe that will go into a school, and they encourage the students to write something short, like a narrative sort of piece, you know, something with a plot. And then once they're done, they take the stories back to their workshop, and they read through them and find which ones are funniest or whatever, and then they practice them. And then after a short period of time, they jump back into the classroom and then like embody the students' work for them. So they have that sort of like warm, fuzzy, like that's my work. Everybody's laughing at my jokes, and like having that sort of like reinforcement of like your voice matters, and you know, encouraging them to like keep writing because they have this really positive experience with it. So when I grow up, that's what I would like to do. Is work for them.
Really good.
You. Looking at the clock and realizing more people have come in since we started. If you don't mind, Kristen, we're going to forego questions at this point until the very end, so everybody has a chance to share a product and their learning and their doing. And then we'll come back and ask questions. So if you'd be so kind as to write down, if you have a specific question for a specific person, write that down, and then at the end, getting closer to 4:45, we will entertain it. So we're back to Euclid, where we have quite a few people. So why don't we do the next two people from Euclid? I'm sorry, Parma. We have quite a few people here at Parma. Why don't we say the next two people come from Parma? So who would like to go next? Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Katie Jackson. Can everybody hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So on my topic, my inquiry statement was, how does one's relocation during childhood shape self-esteem and confidence in adulthood? And it just so happens that my memory that started this, question, it was based on the Where Me and Place. So it was pretty cool that just happened to, fit in. And the resources that I used were, there were a couple of papers about how, they were saying, does relocation affect children, or is it something else? And what the most recent one that I had read was that unless a child relocates more than 4 times during their childhood, like birth to age 16, they don't. The majority of the time they aren't affected that traumatically, but they do understand that it could be like sibling influence and different things. So there's a lot of things that go into play for relocation. So that was my research paper. And then for my narrative titles, I had basically works on relocating, and it was interesting because I was kind of actually drawn to resources like History Primary Document. I did Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I mean, kind of forced relocation and how that affects people, and also The People Could Fly by Virginia Hamilton, about slavery. So, so that was interesting to take, a different look on that. My picture poem, if no one minds, I'd like to read it. Like a fish out of water, a time without place, where am I, who am I, what defines me? My stuff, my family, my regrets and aspirations show my excitement and fear, anxiety and helplessness, yearning and guilt, appreciation and overwhelming exhaustion. I will stop, I will breathe, I will take it day by day. I am human, but I am resilient, and I am never moving again. My narrative was a bit on the creative side. It was kind of definitely a fiction kind of piece, and not necessarily realistic fiction, but more like fantasy. But it did have to do with relocation and the fear of change. In my argumentative essay, I did argue that I do think that relocation contributes to psychosocial problems in youth. It's my first argument was, well, actually, I used a few arguments actually from my personal childhood about what affected me in that. So after all of that, and during all of that, I really enjoyed all the technology aspects of the class. I was really impressed by Pear Deck and ThingLink, and I am for sure going to use them in my creative writing group. I also came to understand better how to use the informational writing as well as the argumentative writing in ways also in my creative writing group. And actually, Jamie, if Jamie's interested, it would be great to discuss perhaps doing like a debate team, whether that's through Heskett or at the library. That would be fantastic. We would both be excited about that option. Let's see. And then I especially like the narrative writing class, and I think it really, it really taught me a lot of things to teach the kids. And also one more thing, just to end on the technology aspect, I think that in itself is going to engage youth, because that is what they are really interested in now, and it has to do with our something in the library for connected learning, which basically is letting kids explore through technology and work together and things like that. So I think that will really help actually some other things that we do in the library as well.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That went long.
I've given myself the task to keep us on time. Someone else from here, Palmer, would like to go next.
I'll go first.
Okay. You want to get up and go to the camera?
I prefer not to.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Darlene D. Okay, I'm Darlene Davis. I'm a teen librarian in the CCPR system. And I chose to focus on something that where I spend a lot of time would be dealing with my teens at the library. So I tried to focus in on, initially I started off with an incident that had occurred with a natural disaster, but I decided to take away from that and go into putting some perspective on what I see in my team room on a daily basis as far as what programs, what works, what doesn't work, how can I change the things that I'm doing, or just put some things in and kind of bring it together as a whole as far as tying it into penultimate and how I can collaborate with the teachers at the school, keep the kids engaged. So my ThingLink was probably the most fun for me because I got a chance to really kind of focus in, and I like putting all the little icons and the tags and really focusing in on what the kids could do. And that's something that I could present to them in a program where they're learning how to take a project they might be working on in school and teach them how to do that outside of the school and use this technology to progress in their projects that they work on. And also the part where we had to find the sources, the resources to tie our topic of inquiry in with the different resources in the library. And that put a lot of perspective on taking different things, whether it be the picture books or like finding a historical article and all those things, how you could take that one topic and tie it all together. I thought that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing that and taking those different things and trying to tie it into that one thing that how you can incorporate programming in that. I enjoyed also that poem that we did, the picture poem, putting that together. I did, as you can see, I did two of them because I started off with dogs because I love dogs, love puppies, so I had done one with my dogs. Then I took it and did a poem with the perspective of teens and what happens in the teen room for them, you know, how to keep them engaged. So get a chance to take a look at that. And that's it.
All right. Why don't we switch over to Akron? Someone from Akron would like to present?
Okay, I can do it. So, my name is Thomas Williams. If you want to look at my wiki, go ahead. I tend to be the type of student that sees everything in the opposite way that the thing was presented. So, it might not be the best to show it to everyone, but if you're curious, feel free to take a look at it. So as far as what I was researching, I actually had the development of where my thesis was going on my wiki in like 3 giant blurbs. One thing I was trying to figure out is how I could engage my students more, because as I pushed into different classrooms at my schools, I saw a lot of students sleeping or having side conversations or just totally uninterested in anything school. So I was wondering what I could do about that. While I had the time to put in a ton of research, how could I prepare myself better for jumping into the classroom? So I started just looking at engagement in general, and I found a lot of really interesting links about technology and where I can go with that. So I actually ended up focusing on technology and video games. So for those of you who are using technology in your classroom and have my page up, on my thing link, there's a website called graphite.org that I thought was fantastic that goes by standard and shows different apps you can use to teach every standard on English and social studies. There's like 60 per standard, and it goes by grade level, so that's kind of fantastic. And I found a lot of these neat resources that I can bring with me to the classroom, and I'm sharing with as many people as possible. So that's one big takeaway for me, is that I have a lot more resources to use to support the way I want to go about things, as vague as that statement is. As far as my writing, not entirely proud of where they went, because I tend to be kind of scatterbrained. Very short periods of time for writing are not really for me. But I did kind of like the time where we went through the library and found a bunch of different texts. So I could talk about that for a little bit, I guess. Since I was researching video games, I was thinking a lot about what you could teach through video games, kind of branching off from technology to video games. And the things that I learned through video games, like one of the things that my cohort over here has had to sit with is I know a weird amount of Chinese history because I played video games, and I kind of went on a bit of a rant one time. And seeing the alternative ways to learn different bits of information. Like, I learned a lot about philosophy, about history through just playing a game. And I found a bunch of alternative ways to find that information. So I'm thinking maybe in future lessons I could create something that could link to a game students play, link it to some sort of text to give them background knowledge and what they're already doing in their spare time, and find links through that. I did my poem thing wrong. I focused on 3 different pictures and wrote a stanza for each picture, as opposed to writing a long poem and then linking the pictures to it. So I found pictures of different video games that I played and kind of talked about where I saw them come from and some of the impact they had on my life. One of them is actually about Chinese history. The Sworn brothers, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei. If you want to read the poem, feel free. But that's a thing. My persuasive piece is on my laptop and will be there in an hour. But as far as my big takeaways, I really thought about what I could apply to the students' lives and how I can bring their experience into the classroom, specifically through place and what they do in their free time and where they do it, kind of looking into their lives more and trying to bring that out and into the learning. It's kind of where I was trying to go. Yeah, that's a lot of vague generalities, but that's where my brain's at right now. Any questions about that?
Would someone else from Akron like to go?
Yep, I'd love to. All right, my name's Sarah. It's Sarah D. if you're bringing up my page. I started with a inquiry statement that had to do, how does exposure or the experience of nature as a child help or affect you later on in life or education? And that kind of grew from a personal experience that I had. I spent most of my summers in my childhood on Kelly's Island, and I kind of was just allowed to explore the land we had. We had many acres, and that kind of fed into my question that I created. I really like my ThingLink. My takeaway from this program is a lot of technology. I think there are a lot of ways I can use ThingLink, especially on our teen blog. I'm a librarian, by the way. And with the idea of using it as like maybe posting a picture of Divergent and then having links to read-alikes or something like that. So I'm excited to use that technology in that way. As far as my writing goes, I really enjoyed actually the narrative writing exercise, and if you want to read that, you can. It's a fictional story, but it stems from a lot of and basically my takeaway is I really like the technology and I want to incorporate that. As a librarian, programming is important to me. And I'm really excited to use the technology in that way. And maybe at some point, I don't know, creating a writing workshop of some kind, maybe during the summer for the kids, I'm not sure. Or a debate team somehow, because that 60 Minutes video was probably one of my favorite things I watched in here, and I found it really inspiring and how the debate team changed those kids' lives. And I could see that working in the Akron area. So that's it.
Am I allowed to have a question real quick?
I don't know.
Am I allowed to have one quick comment?
You may.
Okay, it's for the woman who was speaking in Euclid. She was talking about the pirates or something like that. It was a narrative pirates. There is something, huh?
They're called the story pirates.
Story pirates. There is something like that in the area. Melanie brought it up over here. It's called Magical Theater Company on, I think, Brunswick. Have you heard of it? Barberton. It's in Barberton. They actually do something with schools where they'll take stories that were made by the students there and present them. So if you wanted to stay in the area and do something that's a thing.
Cool.
So, yeah. That was it.
Okay, thank you. While we're at Euclid, would someone else like to go?
Is there anyone else?
Yes, hi.
You want to take a hot seat or do you want to talk to me?
From here.
Okay, okay.
Hello, my name is Dawn S. And I never learned how to actually put things in, so I just sort of wrote in the wiki, so rather than trying to upload from somewhere else. And my inquiry statement had to do with serving people who have mental illness. Mental illness is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because my husband came from a family where it was quite prevalent. His father and my husband actually is a psychotherapist, his mother had schizophrenia with paranoid delusions, and his father was an alcoholic. My husband actually specializes in dual diagnosed clients, people who are both addicted as well as having a mental illness diagnosis. And I know right here, serving the people in Euclid, it's very obvious. Sometimes people who come in who are designated as problem patrons, a lot of times they come from a background of being totally rejected and marginalized by society. And that causes a lot of rage and anger. And that has to have an outlet somewhere. And very often it's all over us, okay? Because we're there, we're a target. And not everyone who works here is very well versed in how to deal with people who are upset and angry, even though we may think they have no cause to be. It's like, I'm sorry you have to wait 5 minutes to get on the computer, but that's the way our system works. But they just see it as one more rejection, one more, they're not, if you have a mental illness, the ability to reason and understand is severely compromised. So all of my writings had to do with the rejection of mental illness. My narrative writing was actually about set inside more of a fiction piece set inside of a school and cafeteria, and how they and because it was alone, and I thought alone fit perfectly for the prompt, fit perfectly with the mental illness theme. So my main character was a young girl in middle school who has to deal with the fact that she's in special ed classes and she's rejected by the other kids and she's bullied and made fun of. So that's what mine was all about. I did my poem wrong too, but it is there. But you know what? I used to teach English, and you know what? I told my students there is no wrong way to write a poem. So actually, no, I did not write my poem wrong. And even in the last verse. But so all of my pieces had to do with that, about funding. My persuasive piece had to do with working with with the public in order to try to perhaps educate public service employees on how to handle people who might have mental illness more, without making them angry, just being more receptive, and not like right away backing up like and acting like I want to get away from this person. So because you can't get away from this person, you really can't, and you shouldn't try. So my takeaway from this is that I am actually every year we have a staff day here, and I'm going to try to actually get a speaker here who, instead of just dealing with the business aspect of public service, which we've had 100 times in the past, of maybe getting a social worker here or a psychologist who can actually help us learn responses to help people who might have mental illness, train us more from that viewpoint than just a business viewpoint of customer service. Another takeaway I have now with dealing with the children is that I am a librarian, by the way. Yes, I forgot to say that about that. And I'm the teen services librarian here. Is that this summer I am going to be having in the first week of August, just before school starts, a 4-day writers camp for middle school students. And I'm going to be using a lot of the sentence expansion techniques that we learned here in that. And then this upcoming school year, well, it's our Euclid Library's 80th anniversary is coming up. And we have this wonderful idea, Kristen and I, of actually having we're working with Euclid Historical Society, and we're actually going to try to get our teachers involved in having the students write letters to the teenagers of 95. Thank you. I'm bad. I was not a math. Okay, for a reason. Okay. Of 2095, and it's going to be put in a time capsule and held by the Euclid Historical Society, and these kids will be having the opportunity to enjoy a little bit of immortality in this way. And what I think is a better way than them writing about their lives.
Academy Award.
I'm sorry to jump in here, but we're going close to being over time, and I want to give the few remaining people a chance to say something. So thank you very much. And next, here at Palmer, does someone want to go?
I got Shanghai. Okay. I'm Nancy W. from Parma Snow, and I started out, and my story is about Yellowstone National Park, and I have to say, in doing this, it changed I already had really high regard for Yellowstone National Park, but by the end of this, I have even greater respect and really realize what an amazing place it is. I mean, when I started at the beginning, with the just getting the informational, I was more like just a regular American person thinking that's a national park and that it's a really great one. But then as I went further into it, and we had to do our a little bit of research, and we had to write our poem. The big thing that happened bad thing that happened in Yellowstone was in the early 1900s. They eliminated all the wolves, and luckily they've been reintroduced. But that makes me realize how stupid we can be and not realize I mean, that's a gift to us. That's not our right to walk in and do anything too. So I don't know if the school will open up or not for you, but it's really super short. But if you want to go look at it, you can. It's the wolves like being happy and normal before people moved into that area, and the eyes of death and grace. And then the middle part is there was a time of sorrow, and that's when the wolves were eliminated. And now that they've been reintroduced in the past few years, the last part is forever may we remain. And when I look, I don't know, I realize I made a connection with this. It kind of reminds me of what Jewish people say about the Holocaust, like never again. And that's sort of how it just popped into my head, oh, that reminds me of that. The wolves had the same thing happen to them. And so, I don't know. I don't want to. Okay, but I want to get back to it. Okay. So then when I wrote my narrative writing, it had to do with a made-up story about a wolf losing her pups during that extermination time, and how she realized that it was not, it was their place. It was given to them by God, and it's being stolen from them, and she realized she had to leave, to get away. That was her only way to survive, was to get out of that area, which is sort of ironic that it's supposed to be a park to protect animals, and the wolves were in more danger there than had it never been a park. So it's pretty ironic. And then when I wrote my last persuasive writing, I guess it kind of includes that idea that this is a gift to us. I mean, it just happens to be in our country, but it's probably one of the most amazing places on the face of this earth, and that we really have to not let that many people, that's what I write about, come in because they'll just damage it, and that this is their land, this is their home, and that it really should be like a lottery system for even people just to visit there, and that we need to, maybe you only get to go there once or twice in your life, but then you treasure that short period of time that you got to go. And I'm glad we did that counterpoint, because it's sort of like totally the opposite of how I think, but as I wrote it, it made me realize that, and I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but there are people who just don't respect things, you know, and they don't respect the animals. They don't think they have good feelings, and I think that's probably the biggest threat to a place like Yellowstone. People just thinking it's Disneyland, or you know, they can just trash it and they'll be able during the night to come in and clean it up and make it go back to normal. But it's not a theme park. It's a real fantastic place. So it kind of led me to all of that by doing this, and so I'm really thankful that I did this, and I think this is what's great about writing, and especially how you set up this class. I think this class was amazing, because it kind of took me from step one, where you kind of had this regular thoughts about things, to something that was more in-depth, and it kind of made you realize more about what you were writing about. It kind of evolved into something bigger and better. And
I'm going to cut you off.
okay, I'm done.
All right. Thank you. Someone else from Parma want to go?
Sure. Stephanie, and I did a couple things that we talked about in class, so I'll keep mine short. But essentially, my focus point was all about the process for heart valve surgeries, Cleveland Clinic projections for future heart health processes, and then having a better quality of life for their patients and family members that are impacted through the Cleveland Clinic. They are some of the groundbreaking work that's done around the world is being done by a guy by the name of Dr. Svensson and then Dr. Stewart at the cardiovascular unit. And my mom was actually one of their patients through their heart valve replacement. So that where heart valve is normally thought of as like a medical picture like the first one, I always think of heart valves now as more of my family and very centric to who I am. So that's where it started the whole process. And then the biggest thing for me was the narrative writing stuff. It almost became a therapy, specifically like the image poem and the narrative writing itself, where we wrote the story in the 40-minute sessions. And then I kind of took that and walked into the classroom, especially after we had our presenters in the narrative or persuasive writing class. And I adjusted my bell work to kind of see where my kids were thinking every day. So now we do one day a week with grammatical structure. Tuesday is like word puzzles. Wednesday is creative writing. Thursday we do something different where we look at a picture through New York Times Learning Network, and they don't release what the caption of the picture is until a week later, and they create a story about that picture. So I'm trying to break through a little bit and see where their mind's at before class even starts, and that seems to help almost settle them down as well. So they're 8th grade, they're a little squirrely, but they seem to like giving them more flexibility on what we're dealing with every day. Especially since going through a lot of experiences, good, bad, and ugly for the first time, and they don't know necessarily how to deal with it in the best way. So where I didn't really know how to handle my mom's surgery in the best way, and then still kind of processing that and learning from it, I kind of have to remember that they're just as human as I am, and that I have to give them kind of space when they go through that stuff and let them write if they want to. And it's not like trying to say that I'm going to be the healer for them either. That's not my job. But my job is to give them space to just breathe and be human as they need to be, and use that to get through some stuff. Because they still need to do their homework. So that's the end of it. Really quick, I love the tech, the programs and the sites, and I'm hoping to link and make it quarterly pictures to kind of bracket my department's development if I'm still at that school, based on novels or based on movements that we're trying to do in our writing. And then Wikispaces and ThingLink, they've already asked me to do presentations for the district, which isn't nerve-wracking at all, on how to set these up so that we can start rolling these out more regularly. So really nice class.
Okay, we have one more person in Akron, I think.
Are they drinking beer?
No?
Nope.
No, everybody's gone at Akron?
Yep, we've all gone.
All right, everybody's gone at Euclid? And everybody's gone here at Parma, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to sort of wrap up in about a half a minute, which I can't do. What I've heard, and I want to wrap it up by looking at two, I think, very key words that are often bounced around in our are very much in my mind. Is one word is education, and the other word is school. And what I really heard is a lot of education and very little schooling from people. And I like to go back to, and I don't know if I did this the first day we met, but I like to go back to the sort of the roots of those words. School, coming from the Greek, meaning leisure, and education coming from the Latin out of, and duco means to lead, so their education is to lead out of. And what I heard is a lot of what happened here is sort of the unfolding and the activities here and the ideas here leading out of you, who you are, and going back to the sort of beginning words of the where of me as a piece. And so, at least from my perspective, hearing in very different forms the where of me as being a theme throughout all the writing was extremely powerful. So, without ado, Tom, do you have anything you say before I turn this over to our evaluators? Tom?
Yes.
Where?
Sorry, they muted me.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you first and foremost to the people at Cuyahoga County Public Library, and I see Julia in the back there, who's been very attentive. Julia's done a yeoman's job of stitching things together from an administrative perspective. And Julia, thank you very, very much for all that you've done. You've been wonderful. The University of Akron, Dr. Broadway, Dr. Kowski is also there. You might want to know that one of the evaluators is about to receive an award for teaching excellence. That's Dr. Kowski. So congratulations to her. And the university has been wonderful as well. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that you haven't seen or talked to. The folks on the technology side, led by David Bullock, he's been great. All of the people at Akron Public Library and at Euclid Public Library, Carrie Burrier and Casey Armstrong have been fantastic to work with. And most thanks go out to all of you. So I'm excited because your ideas help us to figure out where to next. And what I'm hearing over and over and over again is that there's worth here. Worth here to you and worth here to your students. So how is it that we can really kind of put some rocket fuel behind those thoughts and feelings that you have? And there are a lot of people that are surrounding you that I just mentioned who are very devoted to seeing that happen. So thank you for everything that you've done. You guys have been wonderful. And we will be in touch in a continuing way to see where we go next.
Okay. Thank you. So how would you like to do the focus?
Well, I don't think we'll broadcast them.
Okay. No
I it's tonight we'll just keep the chairs moving in a circle.
Okay.
Go ahead and do that.
All right. So what we're going to do is break into the focus groups. We're not going to broadcast or record them. Akron, you have an individual who's facilitating there. And so we will, at 5:30, we'll bring this to closure. Again, like Tom said, I want to thank everybody for their participation, their attendance, their drive, and their dreaming and wondering, and we'll keep in contact. So let's break into the focus groups and do the last part for today. You do not have to do an exit slip today. Unless you want to, but I'm quiet and just in the group.